This is crazy, man. YouTube is really trying to silence me. How am I muted? This is crazy, man. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. YouTube is really trying to silence me. I'm back now. How am I muted? This is crazy, man. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. YouTube is really trying to silence me. Can you hear me now, Kyle? I think the volume is up now. I don't know what's going on, but YouTube has been on some BS lately. They've been trying to do things to silence my channel, be muting me, be kicking people out of my live, and all this weird stuff. But let me go back to the beginning of what I was saying. So basically, the breaking news is that all this weird stuff. Let me go. The new judge that was appointed to oversee the Karmelo Anthony case, he has ultimately decided to deny the motion for a new trial. And I'm here to say I wasn't surprised by that outcome because the system of racism, white supremacy, ultimately is the writing is on the wall. Institutional racism is already set in stone. And when you have the system that is designed to keep black people oppressed and keep them in a state of dependency on the system, it didn't surprise me at all. But one thing I can't understand is that why our people put our faith in a group of people that don't advocate for us. The new judge that was going to oversee this new trial was not going to do anything different than the former judge. The former judge was clearly being biased. You could see in the interview that he had after Carmelo was sentenced to 35 years to life that he didn't see any cause or reason to think Carmelo had a fair was entitled to a fair trial. And I just don't understand why my people take this thing lightly, as if, oh, things are going to change if we have a new judge. If we get a point, if they appointed us a new judge, that we are going to be able to move forward with a new trial. I'm here to tell you this: the system of institutional racism is not going to do what's right and advocate for our people. We are going to be constantly marginalized as a group of people because the laws that were written was never meant to help us as people. There is damning evidence that came out on both sides, both Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony, but more so, there was more than enough evidence that came out against Austin Metcalf that should have granted Carmelo a new trial. But the system of institutional racism is not going to allow a new trial in motion to be set in place because it's never meant to help us as people. We don't benefit from the system at all. So I don't understand for the life of me why black folks got their hopes up and got excited that, oh, they removed the former judge from overseeing this motion for a new trial. Because I'm here to tell you, it's not going to change. The same, it's going to be a different face, but the same mindset. You think that another white judge is gonna do what's right and going to follow through with the law the way it's supposed to be followed when we have been oppressed by this country for so long of a period that we have been oppressed? Institutional racism has been put in place as a direct way to keep our people down. When new case came out, these new attorney that was representing Carmelo Anthony was very thorough. They went into complete details that exposed the troubling details surrounding Austin Metcalf past. That was more than is sufficient. That was sufficient enough to grant a motion for a new trial. Now, the prosecutor and defense attorney were using a motion for a new hearing to expose the violent background of both Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, and there was private off-record agreement to keep these the bad background of both individuals secret and hidden from the public, and just basically to focus on what happened solely under the tent at Frisco High School track meet, and the new attorney that was representing Carmelo Anthony said that Carmelo Anthony wasn't represented fairly in court because if this new information was allowed to be released to the public about who Austin Metcalf was, it could have possibly changed the whole momentum of how the jury decided on how they will go about with the verdict. And it says Carmelo Anthony was dressed up for the Thursday hearing, which began with the defense arguing the efforts by the trial judge and the prosecutors to combat threats and address disruptions actually prevented Carmelo Anthony from receiving an open and fair trial. And so when I thought about how they handled the trial with Carmelo Anthony, they really didn't give Carmelo Anthony a chance to really have any defense when it comes on to be properly represented in the court of law. They pretty much railroaded him, and they ultimately threw the book at him. They charged him with first-degree murder. Now, last time I checked, in order for first-degree murder to go through, you need to see evidence of the person premeditating this act of this crime. They need to show proof that Carmelo Anthony have planned out in advance to stab Arthur Metcalf to death. But there has been no proof that we can find to show Carmelo Anthony planned out days in advance and week in advance to stab Arthur Metcalf. So the fact that they charge him with first degree premeditated murder is absolutely ludicrous to me. And that was more than enough evidence for a new trial to be granted. But like I said, we really think that the white team man is gonna do what's right and is going to stand for what's fair and what's just for black people. That the system is never set up to help us as people. Institutional racism is alive and well. Systemic racism is alive and well. The system is never designed to help us as people. That's why I wasn't surprised by the decision by this new judge to dismiss the motion for a new trial, because I already had expected that was my expectation looking into this case. I wasn't surprised by this decision, because just because you remove the old judge with a new judge doesn't mean that this new judge is going to do what's right. You can't put your faith in white society to do what's right. Listen, our people have been oppressed, have been mistreated, have been abused, murdered, have been taken advantage of by the system and by the laws that were written as a way to keep our people in a state of being dependent on the society that doesn't support us in any way, shape, or form. Even when we try to fight for justice, it's never work out in our favor. You see, when the new proof came out that Austin Metcalf was found painting racist graffiti that said KKK kill all blacks and also Hail Hitler, that was damning information, along with using the N-word. And he was ultimately found guilty for that, and he was sentenced 12 months of juvenile probation. That should be more than enough evidence to grant a new trial. This is damning information that would have allowed Carmelo Anthony to have a fair trial when it comes on to him having fair and equal, case for him to have self-defense. But this was kept hidden from the public because the attorney that was representing Carmelo made an agreement with the prosecutor that they were going to keep certain things hidden away from the public. Man, don't distract me from the show, man. Is green. I'm not talking about no color, brother. This is something different. This is a different topic right now. My favorite color is blue. I'm not trying to be rude, I'm gonna answer your question, but focus on the topic that I'm talking about, please. Don't distract me from my show. So it's crazy to me, but I'm gonna say hi, Linus. I'm gonna say hi to you, and I'm not trying to act like I'm being disrespectful because you did tap into my show. Make sure you like the video and subscribe. But let's focus on the topic. And you sound very young. You look like you're very young. Why these kids are in my live stream? It's crazy. Anyways, it was found that Austin Metcalf was known to be a bully. Him and his brother was accused of being bullies, and they were also found to assault on a female, which resulted in Austin Metcalf being arrested. And that racist graffiti that he was caught spraying on the wall, it it had very damning information that would have allowed Carmelo Anthony to have a really strong case for him to not be sentenced to the long sentence that he was given. For him to paint KKK, take out all blacks, it shows that Austin Metcalf was racist and he had racist tendencies that was really a danger to society. And he also said "Hail Hitler," and you know Hitler was a complete maniac, and he 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 took out a whole lot of people in the concentration camps, and he also used the N word. There are also several documents of him using racial slur in school, and in 2023, Austin Metcalf was accused of bullying a black student in class. So there is more than enough evidence for the new judge to grant Carmelo a new trial, a motion for a new trial. But we know the system is never meant to support our people. Institutional racism is alive and well, and it didn't surprise me that this new judge was dismissed the case for a new trial to go through the process of actually happening. Because the society as a whole don't benefit us as people. I already knew that there's a chance that's going to happen. Another white judge overseeing the case, he has no fairness, and he's going to be he's not going to be fair and balanced when it comes on to looking at the case as a whole. The new attorney that was representing Carmelo Anthony going into a lot of a lot of details about so many things that were done incorrectly, and why Carmelo Anthony was railroaded in this case, and he was not given a fair trial. But when you look at the system that was put in place in America, it doesn't benefit us as people. That's why black people serve longer prison sentences for the same crime as white people do, because that's how the way the law was set up. That's how it was designed. So when you think about it, all the information that was going towards building a case for Carmelo Anthony to get a new trial was pretty much a waste of time, because I already felt like it was not going to go anywhere, just because they reclused the former judge from overseeing this motion for a new trial. It was not going to change the outcome, because, like I said again, you can't put a faith and a trust in a white society that has created laws and created system in place to keep us as people down. What's up, Uber? Thank you for tuning in again, Uber. Thank you for tuning in. This is breaking news. Breaking news. The new judge that was appointed to oversee the motion for a new trial for Carmelo Anthony has decided to dismiss the motion for a new trial. Basically, he threw it out. He threw it out. And I said I wasn't surprised, even though I'm also shocked that black folks thought that things were going to change. We put our faith in a system that was designed to keep our people oppressed. Institutional racism is alive and well. The laws were written as a way to keep our people subjugated and dependent on the system. So it didn't surprise me that that was the outcome. But it was like, I already knew Carmelo Anthony was not represented the way he's supposed to. in the case. You're back, Stormy. Okay. How old are you? Don't say like exactly, but are you like over 18? You don't have to say your exact age, but are you over the age of 18? Storm. Are you over? I don't. Yeah, are you over the age of 18? Because you asking me for my name, and I'm like, I don't really, that's personal. My name is my YouTube channel, if you see it. But are you over the age of 18? You don't have to say your exact age, because the way you talked to me in the beginning, you said, "Bye, I love watching," and you said, "What's your name?" It kind of sounds immature, but I don't want to judge. You don't have to say how old you are, but are you over the age of 18? And yeah, you're right, Uber. Yeah, there's still a lot of racism. Yeah, there's still a lot of racism, and you see, it's crazy to me because there are damning evidence that was found against against Austin Metcalf that would have allowed, that should have been sufficient enough for Karmelo Anthony to be granted a motion for a new trial. But as you see already, racism is alive and well. Institutional racism is alive and well, and the system is never designed to help our people get justice. Why the sad face, Stormy? What's going on with the sad face? You sound very like, I don't want to be talking to someone that's very like, yo. You said sorry. You don't have to apologize. But are you over the age of 18? Because I just want to know. I'm talking to an adult. I don't want to be talking to no child. Like, you could stay in the live stream, but I need a mature audience in my stream. That you could stay, you could listen, but I don't ask your name. Yes, you're over the age of 18. Okay, you don't have to really apologize. It's okay. I understand. It's all good. But so what I was saying again, the prosecutor the prosecutor and the defense attorney, they were both at the motion for a new trial hearing, and both Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf were exposed for having a very troubling background as kids growing up in high school. And there was so much damning information that was revealed about Austin Metcalf that should have been more than enough reason to grant a motion for a new trial. But like I said, institutional racism is alive and well, and it didn't surprise me that the new judge dismissed the case and didn't decide to move forward with the new trial to be allowed. So here's the thing that was found out about Austin Metcalf. He was found to have spray painted graffiti that had racist writing on the wall that says KKK, delete all blacks, and he also praised Hitler, and he used the N-word. And he was actually convicted of doing this, and he was served 12 months in juvenile probation. So that's damning information that if it was allowed to be removed, if it was allowed to be released to the public, it would have ultimately changed, could have ultimately changed the jury decision in sentencing Karmelo Anthony to 35 years to life, even though the sentence in itself doesn't match the law, because Karmelo Anthony didn't premeditate stabbing Austin Metcalf. There was no proof that Karmelo Anthony planned way in advance to stab Austin Metcalf. So that sentence was overkill. They threw the book at Karmelo. And so in 2018, it was found that Austin Metcalf was accused of bullying and assaulting a female, which led to him being arrested. And in 2023, he was accused of using racial slur at a black student in class. And so there's an actual pattern that you can see that Austin Metcalf has shown, in which he was being racist. So it's crazy to me. You retracted all your statement, Stormy. You don't need to retract all your statement. I understand you don't have to apologize. I don't have any hard feelings towards you. So if you want to stay in the live stream and make sure you subscribe and turn the notification bell on. But I don't have any issues in you being in the live stream. I just want to make sure I am talking to someone who's mature, because I don't want to be going back and forth with no kid. I'm a grown ass man, so I don't want to entertain that. Anyway, so what I was saying, in 2024, Austin was found. You think you sub? All right, cool. Thank you for subbing. In 2024, he was found to argue with a female student, and then he allegedly knocked her to the ground and punched her in the stomach. The report states, and he also was kicked out of a football game, and later texted someone saying, "I was about to beat the explicit, explicit out of those kids." And he also, at a previous track meet, when another student alerted Austin Metcalf that someone was not on their team, he said behind our bench was talking wild. Austin Metcalf replied saying, "Kill that MFer." So he has been shown to be a bully, someone who's racist, and someone who has violent tendencies. And he was disciplined by his school from April 2022 to 2024, that he was found to have called the teacher the B word, and he was used profanity, and that he told the school official that he couldn't control his anger, and he wasn't aware that it was coming out of his mouth. And in 2024, on these 5 occasions, records showed that Austin Metcalf was seen a concert regarding his anger and rage during a football game. And in 2021, he was banned from attending a basketball game for a whole season after yelling profanity at a player. So we already know he was using racial slurs, because he was known for using that towards black students. He was known for being a bully. He was known for antagonizing his classmates and actually becoming physically abusive, like hitting and assaulting his classmates, even females, because he said it's bisexual. It means it could go either way, both for man and woman, male and female, right? So there's so many information that came out that proved that Austin Metcalf was troubled as a teenager, growing up in high school, and he had a lot of issues. And so the defense really was trying to bring these cases to the light of him, and it's more than enough evidence to show that a new trial should have been granted. But like I said, white supremacy don't know no bounds, and they created laws to oppress us as people, so they're not going to grant a new trial. I was expecting that. And so that's more than enough information to grant a new trial. But they also revealed damning information also about Karmelo Anthony. And it says that he was growing up in Louisiana, and he was, obviously found guilty for stabbing Austin Metcalf to death. And they said that he sent a text message at 1 a.m. which said, "I'm low-key on the verge," and then he emphasized it. And then later in the morning on April 2, 2025, and hours before he was found, he was actually he was found to have stabbed Austin Metcalf with a knife at a high school track meet. Prosecutors said that his girlfriend reported him for stalking, and that he would engage in stalking behavior, and he will also do things like drive by her home, and he refused to allow her to end the relationship. And there was 75-page filing that prosecutors said Karmelo Anthony had previously been accused of doing, like stealing his girlfriend's phone. And in October 24, he wrote a to-do list for his girlfriend about how to deal with weirdos, quote unquote, and also include the line saying, "Say something slick like my boyfriend killed people." And then there were also texts about fighting and threats. There were texts that showed that from 2025 that Carmelo Anthony and another student were attempting to rob someone for $300. And there are other text messages where Carmelo Anthony talked about fighting and punching someone so hard he had to stop fighting. And in 23, prosecutor also said Carmelo Anthony told a friend he was going to vandalize someone's house in Austin, Texas, saying, "I just feel like I gotta do it. I got a grudge." So there are information on both sides that were very damning for either side, but at the end of the day, this information should have been allowed to be released to the public because it could have definitely made an impact on the jury to decide what was the sentence they were going to hand over to Carmelo, because they made it seem like Austin Metcalf was like this saint, and he was never a troublemaker, but there is clear evidence that proved that Austin Metcalf was a troubled teen, and he had violent tendencies, and he was also racist towards black people. For him to spray paint KKK, kill all blacks, is enough information to show how racist and evil he is. That should be more than enough evidence for the judge to grant a new trial in motion uh, to be accepted. But for him to deny it already proves my point that we live in a society where institutional racism still exists, and nothing's going to change unless the system that's put in place to keep black people in a state of dependency and subjugation is not is if we don't change the system itself, the cycle is gonna keep repeating itself. So this is systemic. I wasn't surprised that the judge, rejected the motion for a new trial, because even if you remove the old judge, and it's a whole different face, the mindset is not different. The ideology is not different. I mean, in terms of how they look at black folks, they see us as monsters, they see us as thugs, they see us as a bunch of criminals, and nothing's going to change in terms of how they view us as people. And if you are working towards granting a new trial, you have to be almost perfect. Like, you can't make any mistakes. And the fact that Carmelo Anthony was shown to have a troubled past too as well, I think that ultimately was the nail in the coffin for him. Even though Austin Metcalf was shown to have a troubling past as well, they don't care about that. It's like he was shown to be a more friendly, loving person in the media. In the media, they painted him as a saint, but the media painted Carmelo Anthony as a thug. Even though Carmelo Anthony was found to save a life when he was young, he saved like a kid from drowning in the pool. They don't point out any of the good things that Carmelo Anthony did. Like, they always pointed him out as like a thug and a criminal. So the fact that that these new information came out that revealed that Carmelo Anthony also had a troubled past, I think that was basically the end. There was the end of it. Like, they're not going to grant him a new trial at the end of the day, because they're not going to be fair and balanced when it comes on to doing what's right, because these information was being kept hidden from the public, because both attorneys agreed on retracting these statements, and they said it's not relevant to the case because they only want to focus on what happened underneath the tent. But like, this is very important because with this information you'll be able to understand more so psychologically what was coming from both sides of the fence. It's psychologically better to understand what would cause Carmelo Anthony to do what he did, and also psychologically you will better understand what will cause Austin Metcalf to act the way he did. And like I said, Austin Metcalf was found guilty for spraying racist graffiti that said "kill all blacks," and he put the word KKK on it, and he also praised Hitler, and he used the N word. I mean, if that information was allowed to be released to the public, man, that would have definitely shifted the tide in the case, and I think Carmelo Anthony would have had a whole different verdict. But because that was kept secret, I think that really worked against the favor of the defense, and I don't think the defensive attorney did a good job in representing Carmelo Anthony the way he should. And like I said, am I like disappointed? Yes, but am I shocked that this outcome happened? No, I'm not shocked because I already know how the system is set up. You see, when black people trying to find for their rights, when they're trying to fight for their rights in the system that is meant to keep us oppressed, it's gonna take a lot for us to get justice. Even when it comes on to us being done wrong, it's like so much that has to be gone, so much work that has to go towards our people getting a fair trial. So nothing surprised me anymore with the system of white supremacy. And also, I wanted to mention this: both teams were shown to have a troubled past. My thing is this: why was the media pointing Austin Metcalf as this perfect student that had no issues and didn't get into any trouble and didn't get into any fight? Like, they made it seem like he was a well-behaved kid, but with all this information that came out of him being a bully, of him actually putting his hands on on females, like he beat a girl to the point where he was arrested for assaulting her. So the fact that he was arrested for that, it's crazy how that never was something that was painted in the mind of people through the media. They never made it seem like he was a troubled kid, but he had a troubled past. He was known to be a bully. He was known to pick fights with people for no reason. And he said his hands was bisexual, means he's not afraid to use his hands on a woman. So, and he was reported for being abusive verbally too. So it's just crazy to me how this was all swept under the rug. Like, this kid was a troubled kid, man. This kid was a violent individual, and he also thought about going to school and shooting up his classmates. Both teenagers fantasize about using a gun to go up to and shoot up the schools with a gun. So both of these kids, man, they had a lot of issues. But like, I'm not saying because of this, it should have been available for the public to see both sides, so they could make an agreement that was fair across the board. Man, it's crazy. Let me see, what time is it? 2000. Okay. So it says, um, so let's read the thing about the judge deciding to dismiss the trial for a new trial. I mean, the judge deciding to dismiss the motion for a new trial. So this judge, let me see what his name is. Let's read this article. Let's read this article. So, in Collin County, this is where it happened. The Texas judge has denied a motion for a new trial
Texas judge is hearing
for Karmelo Anthony. And he's basically he kept the sentence to be held up in court for him to be sentenced to 35 years in prison for fatally stabbing Austin Metcalf. Retired. The judge name is Judge Michael Chitty. I don't know if you pronounce his last name, but he's a retired judge, and he denied the motion for a new trial for Carmelo Anthony, which led in part that a gentleman agreement between the trial attorneys impacted his ability to testify in his own defense. And this is basically, quote unquote, upon reviewing the motion, the record, the evidence and arguments, the beliefs, and the relevant case law, the court has determined the motion should be denied. That's what the judge says. And Carmelo Anthony attorneys argued that the teen acted in self-defense when he stabbed 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a track meet in Frisco in April 2025, while the prosecutors said the killing was unjustified and plain and simple murder. So Russell Wilson, which is the appellate lawyer for Carmelo Anthony, said in a statement Saturday that the legal team will continue with the appeal in the Fifth Court of Appeals and pursue every legal remedy available to their client. And he said, quote unquote, we believe the issues raised in our motion are substantial and deserve meaningful appellate review. The denial of our motion does not end this case, he said with a statement. And he says, our commitment to our clients has not changed. We will continue to advocate vigorously on his behalf through every lawful avenue available. In a statement, Collin County District Attorney Greg Willis said, we respect and expected the court's decision denying the motion for a new trial. The jury's guilty verdict stands, and we remain confident in the process. Every defendant has the right. Oh, 1 second, I lost my train. Okay. Every defendant has the right to appeal, and our thoughts and prayers remain with the Metcalf family in the painful wake of last week's hearing. A Collin County jury found Anthony, who's 19, guilty of murder following 3 years of deliberation in June, and the jury sentenced him to 35 years in prison after several hours of deliberation. And there's another thing. Usually when it comes on to big cases like this, it doesn't take just hours for a jury to deliberate to come up with a verdict. Usually it takes several days, if not weeks, for them to make a decision. But you could tell that they were speeding up this case, and they already made up their mind to convict Carmelo of murder. Like, they already have decided that they were going to convict him. It's like they didn't even take the time out to really be fair when it comes down to the decision. And so I was already, like, my mind was already made up that they were going to basically not give him a fair trial. And they found him guilty of first-degree murder. There was no proof that Karmelo Anthony was thinking of stabbing Austin Metcalf days before the event actually took place. None of this shows that it was premeditated, but yet they found him guilty of that, which also means Karmelo Anthony was railroaded in the court of law, because they already they convicted him of the highest penalty you could give someone, and that's first degree, even though it wasn't premeditated. And on top of that, when the new evidence came out that Austin Metcalf had a troubling past, also with Carmelo, that should be more than enough evidence for a new trial to be granted, because it wasn't everything that was available. All the information that should have been used in the case was not used, because the defense attorney that was representing Carmelo in the initial case, he agreed with the prosecutor to not speak on certain things because he felt it wasn't relevant to what actually happened underneath the tent, which is crazy to me, because like, you got to consider all your options. So right now, the attorney that's representing Carmelo is gonna try to appeal this decision made by this judge. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think nothing's gonna change. I don't think it's gonna end up working out, because this is gonna drag on for years, and I don't think the outcome is not gonna change. I think it's gonna still end up being that they're gonna deny the appeal, because institutional racism is still in effect, and I don't think the system is gonna do what it's designed to do. It's gonna do what's designed to do, which is keep black people in a state of oppression and it's not going to give black people fair uh, fair decisions, and it's not going to give people justice that are black. So I don't think it's going to change. They could appeal it, but I think it's going to fall on deaf ears. And it says attorney from both state and the trial defense took the stand during the 2-day hearing on the motion for a new trial, and the proceedings happened behind closed doors regarding the gentleman's agreement, which kept certain characters' evidence regarding the defense and the victim out of the trial. So this gentleman agreement that the former defense attorney that was representing Carmelo and also the prosecutor was done in secret. Like the public didn't know that there was a gentleman agreement that was made. So to me, that's very unethical, and that should be motion. That should be more than enough information to grant a motion for a new trial. But at the end of the day, I don't trust the system is going to do anything that's right. Post-trial defense attorney Russell Rinson also said during the opening remarks that Karmelo Anthony did not testify because he believed the prosecution would not adhere to the unrecorded agreement not to question him about his past behavior beyond what happened during the confrontation at the track meet. So basically, the new attorney that's representing Carmelo said that the reason why Carmelo did not decide to testify on his behalf during the court hearing is because the defense attorney also agreed with the prosecutor that their client would not be questioned. That's why Austin Metcalf's brother was not questioned, and he wasn't sent to the what do you call it? He wasn't one of the he wasn't one of the witnesses that was questioned by the defense because they made an agreement not to question their client. So this is all done on the table, man. And it says Collin County First Assistant District Attorney Bill Werski told the court that the trial defense attorney agreed to the arrangement and maintained that it was held. And he said he offered the agreement to stay away from historical character and stick to the facts what happened underneath the tent in order to keep the peace amid what he said was intense public vitriol over the case that led to the threats against both sides. You said it's reasonable after seeing recent reports that the prosecutor took it easy on Carmelo Anthony. No, I don't necessarily agree with that statement, Lord, because it's not reasonable for the fact that when the prosecutor and the defense attorney did this agreement in secrecy, and the public was not aware that they had this agreement where they're going to keep certain things under the wraps, where they're not going to tell the public about certain information that would be pivotal in the case. So I don't say they necessarily took it easy on Carmelo because there was a lot of information that was damning against Austin Metcalf. Don't get me wrong, there were also information against Carmelo Anthony that was damning as well, but the fact that Austin Metcalf had a history of being a bully and also being racist towards black people, where he was found guilty for graffiti on the wall saying "kill KKK, kill all blacks," and also saying the N-words while praising Hitler. Man, if that information was allowed to be released to the public, that would have been huge in the case, and it could have definitely changed the verdict with the jury. Now, I wouldn't say that Carmelo Anthony would have been scot-free. You said there's nothing pivotal about the case that would benefit Carmelo Anthony. That's why it was an advantage to keep him off the stand. No, I'm not talking about him going on stand. I'm not talking about him going on stand to speak on his behalf. I'm talking about the new information that was revealed recently about the troubling past of both Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. I'm saying if the defense attorney was fair when it comes on if he didn't agree with the prosecutor to keep everything hidden and that information was allowed to be released to the public, it could have definitely changed the outcome of the case. Because when evidence came out that showed that Austin Metcalf was known for being a racist and being a bully, that could have definitely changed the case. You said being a bully or being a racist toward people allegedly still doesn't change the self-defense argument, and licking a knife or fantasizing about shooting or someone down is detrimental to self-defense. No, I can't agree with that, Lord, Norku. I can't necessarily agree with that because you said allegedly. It wasn't allegedly. It was found. It was not alleged that Austin Metcalf was known to be racist. He actually was found guilty by he was it was actually found guilty. He was sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation for spraying racist graffiti on the walls that says KKK kill all blacks and also hailing Hitler. There's nothing in what you said that applies to self-defense and the application of force used under Texas statute. I understand there are certain laws in place, but you have to understand that this information could have definitely swayed the opinion of the jury, because you see, Austin Metcalf was painted as like this innocent individual that was just a hard-working individual that was on the track on the football team, and he never had a troubled past. But when this information came out that he was a known racist, and on top of that, he was known for assaulting a black classmate while using racial slur in 2023, that information is very, very damning. And he also was known for jumping people and picking fights with people. So when it comes on to the act of self-defense, it can be shown that Austin Metcalf was the initial aggressor, because he's the one that went up to that went up to Karmelo Anthony and initiated a physical confrontation against him. See, it wasn't Karmelo Anthony that initiated the physical confrontation. It was Austin Metcalf. And if this information was able to be given to the public, it would have painted a picture of Austin Metcalf being the aggressor and being the bully and being someone that is known for being aggressive towards people. I mean, there's so many information that came out that proves that. In 2018, court documents showed that Austin Metcalf and his brother were accused of bullying and assaulting a female, which led to him being arrested. And then in 2024, he had an argument with another female student that showed he allegedly knocked her to the ground and punched her in the stomach. Come on, man. If this information was given to the public and the jury was able to hear this, you cannot tell me this would not have made an impact on the case. And he says here that he was kicked out of the football game, and he later texted someone, "I was about to beat the blank out of those kids." And at a previous track meet, another student alerted Austin Metcalf that someone was not on their team, and he was behind our bench. That person was talking wild. He reportedly replied, "Kill that MFer." What I'm saying to you is that jury seeing Karmelo supposedly wanting to lick the knife after he stabbed someone could have added years. Seeing the post of fantasizing, shoot, and stabbing can add years. I hear what you're saying, Lord, and I see where you're coming from, but at the same time, even the verdict that Karmelo Anthony was handed down was not the verdict that matches up with the law when it comes on to actual evidence. There's no evidence that proved that this was premeditated. They found him guilty of first-degree murder, which means that he had this planned out, premeditated. Because you have to show proof that Karmelo Anthony planned days in advance to stab someone at a track meet. Like, he's going to bring a knife to stab someone. You said there's the problem in your argument. We have the entire incident on video camera. You can see front to end to initiate it. There was no jumping, and you can see Karmelo running from the scene. Nope, that's not true. No, Karmelo Anthony was approached by Austin Metcalf and his twin brother and their twin. You see this, cause? Thank you for cause you came in at the perfect time. This guy, all right. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I gotta give you pushback. I gotta give you pushback, bro. Once again, Once again, you are now blurring the lines of truth and emotions. We all have the video. There's the most damn piece of evidence. The evidence showed that Austin Metcalf walked towards Carmelo. Carmelo did not walk towards Austin. Austin is the one that approached Carmelo. So who's the initial aggressor in this incident? It's definitely not Carmelo. Carmelo was sitting down minding his own business. And even if he was not supposed to be under the tent, it's not Austin Metcalf's job to try to put hands on him because he's not an adult. He's supposed to get an authority figure to escort Karmelo Anthony out of the tent. It showed that Austin Metcalf went up to approach Carmelo. He was the initial aggressor. He was the initial aggressor. You said again, you're trying to illustrate 2018 incident and apply them to incident underneath the tent, and we've seen what happened underneath the tent completely. What do you mean? I'm illustrating 2000 incident. What point are you trying to make? We could clearly see who approached who. Did we not see in the live stream, in the video, that Austin Metcalf immediately approached Carmelo? Carmelo did not move from the spot he was at. Carmelo was sitting down during the whole time when the incident happened. Austin Metcalf was the one that literally walked up and approached Carmelo. And then his twin brother was there with him, and along with his teammates. Karmelo Anthony was surrounded by several of the teammates, along with Austin Metcalf and his twin brother. So there's no way you can say Austin Metcalf was not the aggressor. He was the one that initially approached Carmelo. And even if, let's say, he told Karmelo Anthony to move, we can't say for certainty that he warned. This is the reason why I don't believe the statement of how he told him to move multiple times. Because in the video you could see he didn't take time to approach Carmelo. It's like he immediately walked straight to Carmelo in the video. Like immediately. You said I physically saw the video. You can download it for yourself. That is what convicted him of no defense. The jury determined it was intentional because how long he left his hand in the bag. What do you mean you physically saw the video? Like, I saw the same video you saw, bro. Did you actually was there? Were you at the track meet? Like, what are you talking about? It's clear as day. I can absolutely say because we physically saw it and the jury saw the exact same videotape. And their jury of your peers agreed there was no self-defense for Carmelo. So you're telling me that there was no defense for Carmelo, even though he was surrounded by Austin Metcalf and his twin brother and his teammates, and they put hands on him. So you're telling me that Carmelo did not fear for his safety and his life when he got surrounded by Austin and his brother and his teammates, and they were putting hands on him. At that point, he feared for his life. And it's like, what you gonna do? Stand there and let them beat you up? There's proof that came out that showed Austin Metcalf was known for being a bully. And he also was known for jumping people, along with his twin brother. He literally beat up... You gotta be trolling, man. Because there's no way he could deny the fact that Austin Metcalf wasn't the initial aggressor. There's no way you can say that he wasn't the initial aggressor. The video itself, the jury used, is still for public download through the court's office. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Because my YouTube was acting up weird earlier. But it's kicking people out of the live stream. It's doing a lot of weird stuff. Cause it's just trying to silence me. But anyways, I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know if you guys can hear me. In their video, you can hear me, cuz? Alright, cool. Exactly, he was literally trying to broke his brother's hand. Oh man. Alright. Gotta block this dude. This dude is being a weird. Not the guy that is arguing with me, but this Dixon guy is being a weirdo, man. Where these weirdos come from? The crux of the case is simple. If you push somebody, that is not a reasonable response to use deadly force, and that's what Karmelo Anthony did. He didn't only push Carmelo, man. Did you see that? You did not look at the video carefully. He put hands on Carmelo. He didn't just push him. They put hands on him. Him and his twin brother. And he feared for his safety. He did. You said, do you fear for your safety for your life when you walk through a crowd of unknown people? Of course, you're not going to fear for your safety if these people are not being aggressive towards you. And that's not the case with Austin. Austin was being aggressive towards Karmelo. The information that came out about Austin past is very damning, bro. He was known for being a bully. He literally assaulted a black classmate of his and called him racial slurs while beating him up. So if you push me and I stab you in the chest, is that self-defense? That's different, bro. Pushing, it's not like he just pushed him. He put hands on him. Him and his brother, they ganged up on him. They ganged up on him, man. They jumped him. How does the character of Austin Metcalf influence you, the Texas statute we follow in these criminal proceedings? That plays a huge part in it, bro, because that shows the track record of Austin being a bully and also, you know, being the aggressor. Because they, in the media, they painted Austin Metcalf as like this saint and someone who was a good kid and never had any issues. But when you look up the information that was kept hidden from the public, we end up finding out that he was found guilty for spraying racist slur on the wall, graffiti that says KKK, kill all blacks. Come on now. Exactly. My cousin, exactly, you're right. You're right. He said, try pushing a police officer and see what they do. They will pew-pew you. Exactly. So you try putting your hands on somebody. You can't tell that person how they're going to react. And especially when the person is in fear of their safety and their health, tell the police that. Exactly. You tell me you could go up to a police and push them and they're going to say they're not going to do anything. They're not going to respond with deadly force. Especially when you're coming up to them very aggressively. It doesn't matter if Karmelo is law enforcement. At the end of the day, the same rules applies. You can't tell someone how to defend themselves. Exactly. And let's be honest and not emotional. I'm not trying to be emotional, and we just having a conversation here, brother. We're not being emotional. I'm just telling you, if somebody come up to you aggressively, you can't tell that person how to react. Like, everybody interpretation of what a threat is differently. Karmelo Anthony obviously feared for his life, because it's not just Austin Metcalf that came up to him and approached him aggressively. It was him, his brother, and his other teammates. And also, Austin Metcalf was way bigger than Karmelo Anthony. And he was stronger. He did jiu-jitsu or something like that. Karate. He was gonna put a lot of, man, he started putting hands on him. He could seriously hurt Karmelo, because Karmelo Anthony was also diagnosed with epilepsy. And no, if you know anything about epilepsy, if someone hits you at the right place and you hit your head, you can die. He was prescribed medication for epilepsy, so it was a life and death situation in that moment, because Austin Metcalf put hands on him. He was jumped by Austin Metcalf and his twin brother. If he didn't react the way he did, he would have got seriously hurt or killed. He doesn't have to be law enforcement. Keep your hands to yourself and you will keep your life. Exactly. All Austin Metcalf had to do was to not assault Karmelo. If he had an issue with Karmelo Anthony being under the tent, he just got to report it to a higher authority. Tell the coach. Tell the security. Report to somebody who has some high authority, and don't take it upon yourself to try to force him out of the tent. You're a student just like he does. You don't have the right to force him, to put your hands on him, to assault him, which he did. You said your epilepsy claim is irrelevant, considering what was seen on the video. The response to a push being a knife in the chest is not proportional. Bro, you gotta understand, the way someone perceived threat is different. You can't tell somebody how to react if they perceive a threat coming at them. You forgot to mention that Austin Metcalf is way bigger than Karmelo Anthony. He's stronger than him. And on top of that, it's him and his brother and his teammates that were all around him, and they were putting hands on him. You said just justify me stabbing you if you push me. It's a different scenario. If I approach you aggressively and I push you, if I have other people surrounding me that is approaching you aggressively, you ultimately have a right to use whatever you feel is necessary because you fear of your life and your safety. Karmelo Anthony feared for his life and his safety because it's not just Austin Metcalf that came at him aggressively. It was him, his twin brother, and their football teammates. You can't tell somebody how to defend themselves. Exactly, because you can't tell somebody how they're going to defend themselves in a situation like that. On top of that, Karmelo Anthony was not the initial aggressor. And in this information, it says Austin Metcalf had a history of being violent and being racist. You hear yourself say if you push somebody and they stab you, they're justified. If I go, let's say you go up to me, right, and you attack me, you push me, and then I use deadly force in fear for my life, you can't tell me basically that I'm not justified using deadly force because at the end of the day, you were the initial aggressor. So you're talking about proportionality. At the end of the day, Austin Metcalf was way bigger than Karmelo Anthony. You know, you could die from a push, right? And it's not just a push. He punched him too. He put hands on him. Him and his brother and their friends put hands on him. It's not just a push. They physically assaulted him. But you could also die from a push too. If somebody push you hard enough and they push you, you could fall back and hit your head. You know that, right? So at the end of the day, you can't say, oh, because it's just a push, even though it's not just a push. He was jumped by Austin Metcalf and his twin brother along with his friends. Exactly, cuz if somebody push me, I'm gonna do more than just stab them. I'm gonna pew them. Yeah. Justify how a push can be considered deadly force so you can use deadly force. If somebody push you hard enough, you could fall back and hit your head. Answer my question. If somebody push you hard enough, can you not fall back and hit your head? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question, brother. If somebody push you hard enough, can you not fall back and hit your head? And if you hit your head in the wrong place, you can die as a result of that. Somebody push you hard enough, you could fall back and hit your head. Especially, they also said that Austin Metcalf had Karmelo Anthony in a chokehold. He was literally holding him in the choke. You said right there's a big lie. You're now manipulating the facts. He wasn't jumped. The video showed that. Nope, he was jumped. I saw the video. He was surrounded by Austin Metcalf, his twin brother, and their friends, their football friends. They were surrounding him and they were putting hands on him. And then at one point, Austin Metcalf had Karmelo Anthony in a headlock. Now, in a situation like that, it's a do or die situation. Your life is a do or die. It's a life and death situation. You telling me he's not justified using death force when in a situation like that, he could be choked to death, he could be beaten, hit in the head. If you get hit in the wrong places, you could die. And then you said, I literally disproved your point about how you said justify how a push can be considered deadly force. I just disproved that. If somebody push you hard enough, you could fall back and hit your head and die. So a push can be used as a deadly force. But it's not just a push in this situation. But I just literally debunked your statement. A push can be used as a deadly force. Yes, you can fall back and hit your head, but once again, that would be considered manslaughter for the person pushing you and losing your life. See, now this is when you're becoming disingenuous, because at the end of the day, Karmelo denied a new trial and he can come home in 17 years and then speak his mind. We know that he was denied a new trial, and they're gonna appeal it. So let's see what happens. He said everybody can't fight. Everybody has the right to defend themselves however they know how. Everyone isn't a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Exactly. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Austin Metcalf was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was trained to fight. So Karmelo Anthony don't stand a chance of fighting against Austin Metcalf was like 6'1", 200 and something pound, and you know they beat up their father. They broke their father arm. Come on, man. Karmelo Anthony don't have a chance to fight Austin with his twin brother. Come on, man. You keep making these statements about chokeholds and nonsense, and the video does not show that. And eyewitness testimony does not support that. Man, you don't understand it, bro. You don't understand it. Pick up your bottom lip up. I'm gonna place you on timeout because you're disrespectful. You're being disrespectful. Pick your bottom lip up. You're placed on timeout, Patrick. You're being disrespectful. You don't come in my stream disrespecting me. Okay? You're placed in timeout, bro. Yeah, you're placed in timeout. There's no point of going back and forth with this guy because I see that he's already made up his mind. He said this is not trolling. This is observation and facts of the trial. No matter how much social media wants to paint a different scenario, how can you say this is fact when even the friends, even the so-called people that spoke out in the case that was saying, they gave their own account of what happened, they all switch up their story. You know that, right? Even the people that was on stands that were the so-called eyewitness, their story changed. And the people that was supposed to represent Karmelo, they switch up on him. And you know, they were intimidated. They were intimidated. He said, "Oh, my cousin asked if he push. So my cousin asking you, Lord, if he pushes you, what would you do to him?" And not only that, Austin was a star football player. Exactly, he was way bigger than him. He's way bigger than him and stronger than him. He said, Lord said, if you push him, I'm gonna push you back, and we're gonna fight with our hands. If you pull a knife, a deadly weapon, I'm going to reach my upper left hand breast pocket, brandish and deploy. All right, so let me get this straight. So you're saying Karmelo Anthony should have just fought with his hands? Answer my question, Lord. So you're saying that in this situation, Karmelo Anthony should have just fought with his hands. He should have just went mano with Austin Metcalf, who's way bigger and stronger than him. And you know, if he fought Austin Metcalf, he's gonna have to fight his twin because his twin is not gonna allow his twin brothers to just fight by himself. And on top of that, his teammates too. Do you understand what you just said? The testimony they did understand. That doesn't count. You're inserting the words intimidation into your reasoning. No, it was proven that they switch up their stories, and they all were like coerced into saying that Karmelo Anthony was the aggressor when it was proven that. And originally they said that it was Austin Metcalf that's the aggressor, but they changed up their story when they went up on stand. So they were coerced, and they were coerced into saying that it was Karmelo Anthony because the media wanted to paint the picture of Karmelo being the aggressor, but there was no proof that we could see in the video that Karmelo Anthony was the one that approached Austin Metcalf. You seen it in the video. It's clear as day that Austin Metcalf went straight to Karmelo, and they said that Austin Metcalf warned Karmelo over and over again to leave the tent, and it's like he said it like over 15 times, which is when I look at the video, I'm like, I didn't see nothing about Karmelo Anthony warning him about this time. He immediately walked straight to Karmelo. It's like he knew Karmelo was there or something. Like somebody like told him like Karmelo is underneath the tent, and he knew exactly where he was. And this guy says Karmelo Anthony retrial denied. Hilarious. Oh, so we got trolls out here being happy about him being denied a retrial. Unbelievable. He said, and that's your choice of defense, Lord. Everyone has their own method of self-defense. You can't expect everyone's method of self-defense to be the same as yours. Yeah, you can't tell somebody how they're going to react if in a case like that. Everybody is entitled to react the way they feel is right for them to defend themselves. Well, yeah, somebody did testify that when Karmelo was in the tent because he was called over. Nobody should be happy over a tragedy. That's crazy work. Nobody's happy about. I'm not happy about the tragedy. This is unfortunate on both sides. Karmelo Anthony lost a lot of years on his life he never could get back. And I hope, with something, with a new trial being in mind, see what happens. But he's sentenced to 35 years to life, and he's supposed to serve half of that. And do you keep in mind what was on the appeal today was a motion? They still have the appeal process within the Fifth Circuit's courts, and that's probably going to push into early 2025. Yeah, which it's gonna push. Keep this thing is gonna lag. It's gonna keep being pushed back for a while. So I see this thing going for years, and then because when you have appeal court, I'm not an attorney, but I have some understanding of how appeal process work. When you do appeal a decision, it takes a long time for the higher courts to review their appeal and actually decide if they want to uphold the appeal or not uphold it. So this is gonna drag on for a while. So I already know that. But you said, but my method is self-defense is legal. Karmelo Anthony method of self-defense was not legal because I have to keep in mind force of projection because I know the laws of my state. Let me ask you a question. If you have a group of people that approach you aggressively, not just one, but several people that were way bigger than you and stronger than you, and they push you, but they all surrounded you, are you gonna just start throwing hands, or are you gonna fear for your life? Answer that question. That's a simple question. I'm not saying are you gonna use deadly force, but are you gonna fear for your life in that situation? Are you going to fear for your life in that situation? Let's say you're minding your own business and a group of people approach you that are way bigger and stronger than you, and they surrounded you. They start becoming aggressive to you. In that situation, are you going to fear for your life? I'm not talking about you using deadly force. I'm just saying, are you going to fear for your life in that moment? He was a disturbed student. Who is he? Are you referring to Austin Metcalf or Karmelo Anthony, Joe? And also, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on. You said, I don't go around putting my hands on people because there are consequences to those actions. I can't expect someone to push me back just because I push them. The world just doesn't work like that. Exactly, because people think that this world is like sunshine and rainbow, and it's like black and white, man. You can't tell how somebody's going to react if you physically assault them. Like, a person might perceive you just pushing them as like a deadly threat, and they're going to respond the way they see fit by using deadly force, because they feel like some people don't have it in them to want to fight. Some people don't have a dog in the fight, especially if you're being attacked by someone who's bigger and stronger than you, or assaulted by someone who's bigger and stronger than you. You said the question everyone should be asking is how many students are carrying knives now. Is it common now? There's a lot of students that actually have been found to have carried knife in high school. I know when I went to high school, they had metal detectors, but even then, there were still students that were able to bring in weapons in the school. They found a way to still bring in weapons, even with metal detectors. So I know a lot of kids bring knives and all type of weapons with them because of self-defense and to protect themselves from bullies. So I won't be surprised if there's a lot of, I know a lot of students do that. You said the question everyone should be asking. Okay, I already answered that question. You said the cruel reality is I find myself in a situation, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people, I'm going to attempt to leave the situation 90%. The world is not going to be able to stop me from leaving. Bro, now you're being disingenuous, honestly, bro. Because if somebody surrounds you, you have no way to run. They surround you and they physically assault you. I'm asking you a question. Do you fear for your life at that moment? Now you're deflecting. You're saying, I'm going to attempt to leave. What if you can't leave? What if you're surrounded, which was the case of Karmelo? He was surrounded by Austin Metcalf, his twin brother, and their football teammates. If you're surrounded and you got to find a way to neutralize the threat, you tell me you're not going to use deadly force if you see fit? Or are you going to try to run away? What if they hit you and knock you out? What if once they push you and you fall over and hit your head? So here's the problem with your reasoning. You don't leave room in your worldview for escape. I've taken life, and I know what the legalities are when I'm sued civilly by family members. So you said you have taken lives through self-defense. So you said that yourself you have taken life. But I'm asking in a situation like that, would you fear for your safety if you was being surrounded by a group of people that were bigger than you, and you had nowhere to run? You said you have taken life, so you have used self-defense in the situation. So if you have done it, how can you deny the fact that Karmelo Anthony wasn't justified in using lethal force if he feared for his life and safety? A person with a firearm would have used it. In this case, he had the knife, so he used it. If someone had nunchucks, they would use it. They can't tell someone how to defend themselves. You can't tell someone how to defend themselves. Exactly what I'm saying. You can't tell somebody how to defend themselves. And you even admit that you have taken, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said this. I'm going to read this what you said again. You said there's also another problem in your reasoning with Karmelo and Austin's situation. Karmelo back and his left and right was an exit. He had means to leave. No, that's not what you said. You said, see, here's a problem with your reasoning. You don't leave room in your worldview for escape. I have taken life, and I know what the legalities are when I'm sued civilly by family members. You said you have taken life. You said you have taken life before. So have you basically used lethal force because you fear for your safety, right? And you said there's another problem in your reasoning with Karmelo and Austin's situation. Carmelo's back and his left and his right was an exit. He had the means to leave before he used that means. No, you can't say that necessarily. Because even if you try to run away, remember, in the video, I see he was in a headlock. Now, let's say, I see that he was in a headlock, but like, let's say the case being that he had a right to run. You know that if someone catches you, you don't have nowhere to go, right? They could grab you, they could pull you back in, they could still continue to beat you up. You're creating situations and scenarios of fiction. They're very specific. I get the feeling you're not being in a life of or death situation by the line of inquiry. No, I've been in situations where it was a life and death situation. I was jumped before, but I didn't have any lethal force. But if I any weapon on me, if I did, I would have used it because I was in fear for my life. Thankfully, police arrived on the scene by these individuals, but you see, when it comes on to you being attacked by more than one individual, if you fear for your life, you're justified in using lethal force. But you can't see, my thing is that you can't tell somebody how they should react in a situation like that. If they're being surrounded by a group of people and they're being physically assaulted by this person, you can't say, oh, they should just run or they should scrap it out, because not everybody is going to react the same. Yes, they're breaking into my house. I used blunt force trauma with one man coming into the glass, and I had to leave them there till the police removed them several hours later. Wow, that's crazy. I used blunt force trauma with one man coming into my house. Now, you see, that scenario, you was justified in using lethal force, right? Because you fear for your life and your safety. But you didn't answer my original question, that if a group of men came up to you, surrounded you, and they pushed you, would you feel like your life is in danger? Because if you can't just say, I can run away. What if they surround you? You have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to go. You know what I'm saying? You have nowhere to go. You have to resort to whatever method you feel is necessary to neutralize the threat, and that's what Karmelo Anthony did. Because Austin Metcalf was way bigger than him, stronger than him. He's not going to win a fight against Austin Metcalf. And on top of that, his twin brother's there too. So if you fight him, you're going to have to fight the twin brother. And on top of that, you have to fight their teammates, our football players. I mean, it's just not going to be a fair fight. So I'm going to read through this again about information that came out that showed troubling details about Austin Metcalf and also Karmelo. I'm going to also mention things that Karmelo was found to show in his past that was also troubling. It says here that Austin Metcalf was, how did I get surrounded but I can fear for my life and not use lethal force? What I'm saying, let's say let me use a different scenario, right? let's say if you're sitting, um, let me see, at a park, right? You're minding your own business. You're on your phone. You're not paying attention to anybody. You're minding your own business. You're sitting at a park, and then you see a group of people walking up towards you. You don't have time to just react. All of a sudden, they're surrounding you. One person pushes you, and the other one, they start ganging up on you. I'm saying in a situation like that, would you fear for your life, or would you feel like you would? How would you feel in that situation? Because you don't anticipate that happening. It happens so fast. Sometimes people think, oh, I could react in a moment to run away. But sometimes it happens so fast you have no time to run. Sometimes you have no time to leave. And sometimes running away could actually do more harm than good, because a person can still catches you. They can still catch you when you're running. They can still grab you when you're trying to run. And it's like, in a situation like that, it's either you go out swinging or you become a victim. And I think Karmelo Anthony felt like he had to do what was necessary to neutralize the threat. Plain and simple. Because when he allegedly stabbed, because he said he did it, but there's people who say that fear for life possibly because I've taken a life, I'm hesitant to use deadly force. But if you fear for your life, that's going to be justified for you to use deadly force, ain't it? Because you even gave your own experience of using deadly force, and you fear for your life in that situation. You cannot say you didn't fear for your life in that situation. Somebody comes into your house trying to rob you, bro, you're justified in using deadly force, but you do fear for your life. You don't know what these people are up to. You don't know what their intentions are. You don't kill someone because of a little push. All right, you gotta go. Don't disrespect me in my chat. Kevin, you block. You block. You're blocked. Get out of here. The problem is with Karmelo is he had his hand in his bag, according to witness testimony. Knife is open, anticipating to push, and then he jabbed Austin in the heart. The jury did not like that. Karmelo Anthony didn't intend to really kill Karmelo Anthony didn't intend to necessarily kill Austin, because he only jabbed him once. You say you gotta go, cuz? Talk to me later? Alright, cool, cuz. Tap in later, man, because this is such a good live stream. But the intention behind it was like he wasn't trying to kill him, because if he did, he would have stabbed him multiple times. He poked him once and he ran away. He said, unfortunately, Texas statute has levels of force to be applied only when you have actual fear for your own life. But it has to be justified fear, and always the jury is not going to see it your way. I agree with that. The jury is not going to necessarily see it that way, because in the county that he did the case, that the case was being held, it was known for being racist towards black folks. They tend to be very biased when it comes on to giving verdict out to black people. So I knew it was in the wrong county. But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make is the information that came out about Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony, of them having troubling backgrounds, should have never been kept hidden from the public. That information should have been available, because it could have painted a picture as to what would have been the motive as to why Karmelo Anthony reacted the way he did, and also why Austin Metcalf acted the way he did. And I think that could have definitely made an impact in the case. That could have worked out in Karmelo Anthony's case, because it was clear to me that the initial aggressor was Austin Metcalf. And with this recent report that came out, it was proven that Austin Metcalf was known to be a troublemaker. He was known to be a bully, and he's known to be the aggressor. That he'd go up to people and start fights, and he also was known to be a racist. He was found guilty for spraying racist graffiti saying KKK kill all blacks, and also saying Hail Hitler along with the N-word, and he was sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation. And he said, oh, we did that stuff, and that was some vandalism. You said, I would agree on his intent, but the level of force was deadly. I was on the safe of a manslaughter. I was on the safe of a manslaughter and 15 years. I'm confused what you said at the end. You said I was on the safe of a manslaughter and 15 years. Now listen, um, I would say, is it is it good that Austin Metcalf lost his life? No, I don't want. I didn't wish. I don't want that to happen. It was unfortunate. You know, condolences go out to his family. I'm not wishing death on anybody, but I'm just saying when you do put your hands on people, you can't tell that person how to react because everybody's gonna interpret danger differently. Some people might say, "Oh man, why you not just throw hands, man? Why not you just go bang for bang?" But when you see not just one person, but several people approach you aggressively in that type of tone, and they're being physically aggressive towards you, a person might interpret that as like, "Oh my God, like it's a life and death situation. I gotta do what's necessary to protect myself." Um, the reason why I'm glad you did not put the initial information of their characters out for the public is because it was more detrimental to Carmelo Anthony, and it could have given him more years. You think so? I don't really necessarily agree with that, Lord. The reason why I have to push back on that statement you make is the fact that the jury basically it was made out to seem that Carmelo Anthony was the aggressor because they said that Austin Metcalf warned him multiple times to leave the tent, and he said, "No, if you push me, see what happened." They made it appear as if Carmelo Anthony was the initial aggressor. So I think that narrative that was painted about Carmelo Anthony being the aggressor, it would have shifted with this new report coming out because it would have shown no, Austin Metcalf have a history of being the aggressor. He's known for being a troublemaker. He's known for being a bully. He's known for being a racist. So that could have definitely painted the narrative of Austin Metcalf being the initial aggressor. And if that also was the case, which showed that him being that person, it would have shifted the case in Carmelo Anthony's favor. Even though there was also information that came out with Carmelo having a troubling past too, the initial statement of him being the initial aggressor would have been null and void. It wouldn't have stand out because look at the statement that came out about Austin Metcalf. This is very damning information. You said spraying KK and being in trouble is awful. Fantasizing, shooting, and stabbing someone in the text and licking the blood off the knife is going to look worse if the jury would have seen that evidence. But that's fantasizing. That's him not going through. I mean, Austin did the same thing. Austin Metcalf fantasized about going to a school and shooting it up. Austin Metcalf fantasized about same thing that Carmelo Anthony is differently, but they both fantasize about killing a lot of people. So at the end of the day, it's like one side of each had both issues. They both had issues. So I don't think it would have necessarily worked out on either end. It wouldn't work against Carmelo. I'm just saying the narrative that was painted of Austin Metcalf being like that person that was trying to be reasonable, it would not hold up in court in my opinion, because with this information coming out of Austin Metcalf, known for spraying this racist graffiti and also assaulting a black kid while using a racial slur, it would have painted the image of him being a troublemaker, being a bully, being the aggressor, which would have definitely worked out against him. Because now the jury would be like, wait, so we could see there's a pattern here, because it's not a one-time thing that he was known for doing this. It was also known that in 2018, when he was in elementary school, him and his brother bullied and assaulted a female, which led to him being arrested. Elementary, bro, that goes way back. So you could clearly see there's a paper trail of him doing these things. So come on, if you bring up all this information, you don't think it's gonna work out in the defense favor more than the persecutor? Because it was painted as if Austin Metcalf was this really good student that was well behaved and that never started any problems and never started anything. You said prison life is his destiny. He's not going to life. He's not going to prison for life. So you could troll, but that's not the case. And you said it could have been much worse. What do you mean? Are you talking? Are you referring to Carmelo Bram, or are you referring to? Yeah, I think you must be referring to Carmelo. You said so. Are you saying he could have been sentenced to a longer prison sentence, even though the sentence don't actually, it's not the right sentence for him because it didn't show any proof of him having premeditation, like he didn't plan to kill Austin Metcalf the day before. There's no actual text or any evidence to show that he was gonna plan the next day to stab Austin to death. So you can't say it was premeditation. So that even the punishment don't match the crime. You both had issues, and one did a stabbing that looks worse in hindsight. Yeah, in the eyes of the jury, that was being honestly biased to me, because there were no black jury on stand. Obviously, they're gonna be more biased in terms of looking at Austin Metcalf as the victim and not the aggressor. Because, like I said, if this news came out with him having a track history of being very violent and assaulting not just boys, girls, because he said his hand is bisexual, which means women are not free from getting hit by him. The problem is painting an image of being a bully or whatever character flaw is. It doesn't change Texas statute on how force is being used, specifically the deadly variant. But I was looking up the statute. Do you live in the state of Texas, by the way? Because I thought Texas is a stand your ground. If I'm not mistaken, is a stand your ground state, right? So in a stand your ground state, if you fear for your life and your safety, you can use deadly force by any means necessary. Being that Texas is a stand your ground state, you live in the state of Texas? Okay, so it's a stand your ground state, right? So you don't have the duty to retreat, basically. So in a castle doctrine state, it's not a stand your ground state? I thought Texas. Wait, what? I thought Texas is not a stand your ground state? Oh, you said castle doctrine. No, you're wrong. You're actually. I just looked it up. I'm not tripping. It says yes, Texas is a stand your ground state. Under Texas Penal Code 9.31, you have no duty to retreat before using force, including deadly force, to defend yourself, as long as you're in a place you have legal right to be. If you did not start the fight and you're not breaking any law. So that goes back to my point that Austin Metcalf was the initial aggressor. So being that he was the initial aggressor, Karmelo Anthony did not have any duty to retreat because he lived in a stand your ground state, which means that you don't have the duty to retreat. You could use deadly force if you see fit, if you fear for your life and your safety. You said keep reading the statute, bro. What is there to read beyond that? It says, while similar, Texas also enforces the catch-all doctrine under Chapter 9 of the Texas Penal Code, which means stand your ground, which also applies. It says applies anywhere where you are legally allowed to be in public or private places. You must prove your use of force was reasonable. And the catch-all doctrine says it applies specifically to your home, vehicle, or workplace. It provides a legal presumption that use of deadly force was reasonable if someone unlawfully and forcibly enter or tries to enter your protected home. Wait, so catch-all doctrine does not apply to the case with Carmelo, though. Catch-all doctrine only applies to someone who lives in a protective area, like their home, a vehicle, a workplace. So that case does not apply to the case with Carmelo. So that's null and void, bro. So that's completely different. I'm talking about the statute in the state of Texas is a stand your ground statute. So in that situation, Karmelo Anthony does not have a duty to retreat. He doesn't have to leave if he feels like he needs to protect himself. So you said Carmelo Anthony would have stabbed anyone. What do you mean? In what context? What do you mean he would have stabbed anyone? And then you said, Lord Norku said, reasonable belief. You must reasonably believe that the force or deadly force is immediately needed to stop an imminent threat of death or serious injury. That's exactly what I said. Carmelo Anthony feared for his life and safety because the initial aggressor was Austin Metcalf, approached him and physically assaulted him. He could have reasonably feared for his life because you could die from a shove. If somebody push you and you fall and hit your head, you could die from that and seriously, hurt yourself, injury. So it's not just, fear for your the fear of dying, but also being seriously injured as well. So in that situation, it does apply to him, and that's where Carmelo's self-defense falls apart. Is the reasonable application of deadly force that is used for the jury. And correct, I brought up Castro Johnson, so I'm not an M word. I can't even say that because YouTube would censor me. But your case is different from Carmelo's case. In your situation, you were justified in using deadly force and under that doctrine because you were at your place of refuge. You was at your home, and you was being attacked by a bunch of intruders. So you was justified in using deadly force. So the rules it doesn't apply. Your situation doesn't apply to Carmelo's because Carmelo was in a public space or private place, either one, and he had no duty to retreat because in that situation he was the one that was assaulted first by Austin. So who was the initial aggressor? It all goes back to who was the initial aggressor. And in that situation, it was clearly shown that Austin Metcalf was the initial aggressor. But the people that went on stand, that were the eyewitnesses, they changed their initial story that Austin was the initial aggressor. And they said it was Carmelo. How can Carmelo be the initial aggressor when he was the one that didn't started the physical confrontation? He was not the one that put his hands on them. So when you see that it was Austin that there was an initial aggressor, you could say in that situation, Carmelo had no duty to retreat. And it's not just a little push. Bram, it's not just a little push. He was pushed very hard. And in terms of that, if you're being surrounded by a group of people that's being very aggressive to you, you don't have no duty to retreat. You could use the force that you feel is fit to neutralize the threat. You said, yeah, I'm trying to draw out why there was a guilty verdict for the wrongful death portion. That's why I bring up the use of force and the clause of reasonability. But in what context, though? Because I'm usually using the standard ground doctrine, not doctrine, but standard ground statute that shows that you have no duty to retreat before using force. So Carmelo Anthony didn't have a duty to retreat because he felt for his safety. If you feel for your life, you have no duty to retreat. And so if he in his mind he felt for his safety, he can use what force he ever feel is necessary to defend himself. So you're saying what does that apply in this statute? How does the verdict apply? Because it's a stand your ground state. It's not like he live in a state where there's no standing ground and they give you the option to retreat. The state of Texas says that you don't have the option. You don't have to retreat. You don't have the duty to retreat. So in that sense, it actually works out in Carmelo Anthony's defense more so than in any situation. Especially with these new statement that came out that shows that Austin Metcalf has a history of becoming aggressive towards people and being a bully and being an instigator. And you said no one gets to kill because of a push. It's not just a simple push, man. I'm not saying that you have a right to kill anyone, but Texas is a stand your ground state. He don't have a duty to retreat. You said he didn't have a reasonable reason. He doesn't have a reasonable reason to fear for his life. Is the reason why self-defense do not work for him in the trial. This is the totality of the case for wrongful death. I'm gonna break that down and disprove everything. You said he doesn't have a reason to fear for his life. How can you say he doesn't have a reason to fear for his life? He could fear for his life. You can't tell him that he don't have a reason to fear for his life. In a case like that, where it's a standing ground state, he don't have the duty to retreat. On top of that, he's surrounded by not just Austin, but his twin brother, and they surrounded him and they were ganging up him. His twin brother is bigger than him, and they assaulted him, physically assaulted him. It's not like they just verbally, like, you know, assault him, like, oh, I'm gonna beat your ass and all this stuff. He was physically assaulted by Austin Metcalf. So in that situation, he had no duty to retreat. When you are the aggressor and you initiate the contact, you don't have the right to retreat. At that point, the standing ground statutes it applies in this situation. And you said, remember the words reasonable. Your definition of reasonable is very different from apparently two juries. Of course, the jury is gonna go with the verdict of him, you know, being guilty of M word, even though it was no proof that it was premeditated. And on top of that, being that it's a standing ground statute state, it applies in this situation. Because who was the initial aggressor? Was it Austin? Was it Karmelo? Last time I checked, it was Austin that was the initial aggressor. Being that Austin is the initial aggressor and he's the one that physically assaulted Karmelo initially, in that moment, it doesn't matter if he slap him, it doesn't matter if he kick him, it doesn't matter if he push him, if it doesn't matter if he punch him. At that moment, he doesn't have a duty. Karmelo don't have a duty to retreat. And you said it's propaganda. How is it propaganda? Look at this. I'm not making it up. Yes, Texas is a stand your ground state. Under Texas Penal Code 931, you have no duty to retreat before using force, including deadly force, to defend yourself. As long as you are in a place you have a legal right to be, do not start the fight and are not breaking the law. Who started the fight? Was it Karmelo Anthony or was it Austin Metcalf? Who put their hands on who? Because last time I checked, it was Austin that put his hands on Karmelo first. Karmelo Anthony did not put his hands on Austin. So being that Austin is the initial aggressor, at that point, Karmelo have no duty to retreat, period. I don't want to hear what nobody has to say. He walked towards Austin's tent. Firstly, then words were exchanged. Then a push that leads to a knife to the chest. Then Karmelo left quickly and admitted to stabbing. I already know that. That's already in the case. But I'm saying, who was the initial aggressor? Who put hands on who first? And it's clearly shown that Austin is the initial aggressor, and he's the one that put his hands on Karmelo first. So in that situation, Karmelo had no duty to retreat. Texas is a stand your ground state. That means if somebody comes up to you and pushes you, punches you, kicks you, shoves you, whatever the case is, you have no duty to retreat. At that point, you can use whatever force is necessary to neutralize the threat. So it's crazy to me that in the case like this, Karmelo Anthony was the one that was being railroaded when he was not the initial aggressor. Karmelo threatened people on his phone, threatened to kill. He screwed himself. That has nothing to do with the case right now. I'm talking about the standing ground state. Let's see what this says. Karmelo threatened to kill his girlfriend. I'm gonna bring up those cases. You said wrong. Karmelo was the aggressor. No, Karmelo was not the aggressor. He did not put his hands on Austin. Austin's the one that put his hands on Karmelo. So it was Austin that was the aggressor, not Karmelo. If Austin wanted Karmelo Anthony to leave the tent, he should have got some authority figure to do so. Get the coach to do so. Get a security guard to do so. But don't put your hands on somebody, because when you put your hands on somebody, now all bets are off. And it, being that Texas is a standing ground state, you don't have no duty to retreat when somebody physically assaults you. Using excessive force also remove the stand your ground protection. 35 years and he will serve 35 in one day. No, not necessarily. He was the aggressor. He was actually the 10, 15 times. See, that's a lie. Because in the video, Austin went straight to Carmelo. You didn't see him sit down and like had a conversation with Carmelo. He immediately walked straight to Carmelo. So he knew exactly where Carmelo was, and he was going straight to Carmelo. And then he physically assaulted Carmelo. So at that point, he was the aggressor. How can Carmelo be the aggressor when he's sitting down and he didn't move from the spot that he was at? But we seen in the video that Austin Metcalf walked to Carmelo and then he physically assaulted Carmelo. So being that he physically assaulted Carmelo under the Texas stand your ground state, Carmelo had no duty to retreat, and he could use whatever force is necessary, including deadly force. And also, I want to go back to your statement you made, Lord. You're saying that excessive force also removes the stand your ground protection. Let's look up that. I like to look up everything because I'm just going based on what the law says. And the law, if you look at it verbatim, it really fits Carmelo's defensive case more so than an Austin Metcalf. But let's say, okay. Coach gave Austin the authority to remove people from the team. Are you serious right now, Tammy? Are you being serious right now? Austin is not an adult. Austin does not have the authority to remove no other teenager around his age. He's not an authority figure. He's not the coach. Just because the coach gave him authority to move someone doesn't mean that he has the right to do so. You can't be serious, man. What are you, bro? This is crazy. So just because the coach says he has the authority, come on, Tammy, you're being a clown. Right? This is funny, man. You can't be serious, bro. Karmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf don't have the authority to remove nobody from anywhere. Carmelo was in a public space, and he had all right to be there just like everybody else. He didn't own the tent. Austin Metcalf did not own the tent. The trials transcript says different. No, it doesn't. No, I literally disproved your point. You guys don't have no leg to stand on. You have no leg to stand on. If you read the statute, stand your ground applies in this situation. You have no duty to retreat, whether you're in a public or private space. So let's say the tent is privately for the team, right? It's only for Austin Metcalf team, right? It still doesn't matter because the stand your ground state says you have no duty to retreat if you feel like your life is in danger. You could use whatever force is necessary, even if it's deadly force. So being that Austin Metcalf is the initial aggressor, he went straight to Carmelo and he pushed him, he assaulted him. Carmelo at that point can use whatever force is necessary. He don't have no duty to retreat. He had no duty to retreat. Come on, man, you guys are being disingenuous here. But let me go back to the statement that Tammy Lord said. He said excessive force. He said, so I'm gonna look up this. Can excessive force used in Texas remove the stand your ground protection? Okay. Here it says here it depends on the situation. So it says using excessive force can void stand your ground protection in Texas. Under Texas Penal Code 9.31, self-defense is restricted, limited to the amount of force a reasonable person would immediately need to stop an unlawful threat. If your response goes beyond what is necessary, you lose the legal justification of lethal defense. But here's the thing. Here where it disproves that point. Because it says reasonable belief. Your action must match the level of danger you face. But here's the thing. You face. So if you reasonably believe that your life is in danger, it oversees that justification in that penal code. It oversees that because if you reasonably fear for your life and your safety in a situation where you're being jumped or you're being surrounded by several individuals and they're bigger and stronger than you, now you reasonably believe that your life is in danger. You fear for your safety, which also means you can use whatever force you feel is necessary that justifies you defending yourself. Your battery is 10%. We can agree to disagree. Isaiah manslaughter with. That's why I do believe he should have been convicted of manslaughter, and yeah, that's the that I wouldn't be upset if he was found guilty of manslaughter, because at the end of the day he took a life, and manslaughter would have been a fair verdict. Even though I still think it would have been a little bit too much, but I wouldn't be necessarily upset about it, because I would say manslaughter would be more the fitting verdict as opposed to first-degree murder. There's no proof that this was premeditated. But good talking to you, Lord. Thank you for being civil about this whole thing. And you said your battery is 10%. But make sure you like the video, subscribe, turn the notification on, and share the video to your friends and also different platforms, because I'm just speaking on these cases and trying to be as fair and balanced as possible. And you said Karmelo could get more time. No, he's not going to get more time. Karmelo, killing was not a reasonable defense. He didn't intend to kill. You got to understand, intention also matters. And in that situation, Karmelo did not intend to kill Austin. That was just like a defensive response. He stabbed him once and he ran off. It's not like he stood there and stabbed him multiple times. If he would have stood there and stabbed him multiple times, then you could say he intended to kill him. But no, you can't say he intended to kill him, because he poked him once and then he ran off. And you said killing you don't understand text. I just read the whole thing. So you don't understand it because I literally read it and I applied the situation based on the scenario with the Karmelo case, and I applied the situation and scenario, and I used those examples. So you can't say I don't understand the law. He did intend to kill him. How can he intend to kill him if he just poked him once and ran off? Intention means you have the intention to unalive somebody by doing it like you could see egregiously that this person wanted to kill this person. So that means if he intended to kill him, he would have stabbed him multiple times. You know the case with Case and Allison? You guys are aware of the case with Case and Allison? This is when I'm going to point out the hypocrisy of you guys. Nord says how murder is approached in Texas is very different from a lot of states, and there's nuances with the term intention. You see, intention is very vague, because I got a case where there was a white guy that was found guilty for stabbing his Hispanic classmate to death. He intended to kill someone. No, intention means the person that was involved with the case, he intended to stab this individual. You know the case that happened with Case and Allison? Are you guys aware of what happened with Case and Allison? Because this is why I'm going to point out the hypocrisy with you guys, because you guys are not being objective. If you guys are aware of who Case and Allison, he was a white kid that was convicted of stab. Yeah, you said Texas intention is wild here. Yeah, it's crazy how they just view cases based on different incidences. But I'm gonna point out this case because it's clear. This case showed premeditation, and it showed that Case and Allison intended to stab his Hispanic friend to death, and he wasn't found guilty of first-degree murder, even though there were text messages that showed that he was gonna go to class and stab his Spanish classmate to death. And I'm gonna point out the hypocrisy of these other guys that's saying, "Oh, he intended to kill him." So I'm gonna say this: what happened with Case and Allison? Because Case and Allison was not charged with first-degree murder, even though there's clear evidence that showed he intended to go to class and he stabbed his. Let me look up the case because I want to be very specific. But 1 second, let me look up the case with Case and Allison, and this is clear intention. The prosecution can secure a murder conviction if the defendant intentionally or knowingly caused the death of an individual under Texas Penal Code 6.03. So you're saying 6.03. Let's look this up because I'm gonna verify everything you're saying. And also, you said this other person says the other case is not from Texas. No, it's not. Case in Allison happened in the state of Texas. Case in Allison happened in the state of Texas. That's a lie. That's a lie. That happened in the state of Texas too. But he had the knife open when he entered. How you know that? Is there any proof that he had the knife open? I don't know, man. Guys, sometimes I feel like people be just be saying anything. Yeah, that happened in the state of Texas. So if you're applying the same statute, which also applies to the state with the situation with Case and Allison, this happened in 2025. No, he was found guilty of criminal negligent manslaughter in April 29, 2025, and he was only sentenced to 10 years for stabbing his classmate Jose Ramirez. Let's look up this because it was clear intention. This is what intention shows. Man, the article is blocking me. It's not letting me read the But what I remember about the case is that he had issues with Jose Ramirez, his Spanish classmate, and he said he was going to do something. He said he was planning to hurt Jose Ramirez very badly, and he said he was going to go and he was going to inflict harm on him. And he was an 18-year-old high school senior that was involved in the stabbing of Jose Ramirez on Tuesday, and he was not convicted of first-degree murder, even though it was clear intent that he planned to stab Jose Ramirez. And he was arrested on Tuesday, 20 minutes after the incident occurred in the bathroom. So here what happened. He said that when he said it in the text message that he planned to harm Jose Ramirez very badly. He said he was gonna harm him. He was gonna stab him to death, and then he ended up stabbing Jose Ramirez multiple times. He stabbed him all over his body, which clearly showed intention, and he also planned to unalive him. And yet he wasn't found guilty of first-degree murder. He was found only guilty of manslaughter. But how is it that Karmelo Anthony didn't show any intent of showing proof that he wanted to stab Austin Metcalf like days before it happened, and he only stabbed him once, but he was found guilty of first-degree murder? How does that make sense? And I'm not speaking against your opinion of him being guilty of manslaughter, Lord. I'm just talking about the other people that are not being objective, saying, "Oh, he's guilty of first degree," and it's like crazy. The other case involved others in a bathroom fight. No, that's not true. It was only him. It was only him and Jose Ramirez. It was only him and Jose Ramirez, and he said he planned to really harm Case and Allison said he planned to harm Jose Ramirez very badly. He said he was gonna stab him. He said he was gonna hurt him very badly, and he said he's not gonna live to tell it. So he intended to unalive Jose Ramirez. But yet Case and Allison had the complexion for the protection, and he wasn't found guilty of first degree and he only charged him with manslaughter, and they gave him 10 years. But he's gonna get out probably like 5 years. He's not gonna serve the whole 10 years. You said open knife is not intention. Some people say he had it in his backpack. Some people said, how can he have an open knife and he had it in like where where somebody will see it? Come on now, that's not even proven to be true. Because of a sudden response to stimuli around him, that would be no intention to kill, but a non-proportional knife strike that led to the death of someone. Basic manslaughter from a view. I could see manslaughter being a reasonable verdict, but 30 years is just ridiculous, man. They railroaded him, man. They basically gave him. They overkilled it. The persecution, the verdict was overkill, man. Carmelo talked about wanting to kill others. The two cases are very different. No, they're not very different. I literally point out a similar situation that happened in the same state, and I show you clear evidence of Casey and Allison having intention to harm Jose Ramirez. He said it. He planned to inflict very bad things to Jose Ramirez. He planned to stab him. And he said his name. And he said when he gets him, when he meets him, he's gonna stab him. He's gonna harm him. He's gonna kill him. But you don't want to. You don't want to mention that. You're not saying nothing about that. You said Carmelo threatened to shoot a girl he was stalking. The knife was open in the backpack. He said the knife was open in the backpack. Okay. He was lucky he didn't get life. How can he get life when there's no premeditation? And on top of that, he only stabbed him once and ran off. First of all, he should have never been found guilty of first-degree M. It was not. These cases are similar. Similar stabbing, similar age, similar situation. A fight happened, and this happened in the bathroom where Jose Ramirez where Casey and Allison stabbed Jose Ramirez multiple times. He stabbed him in his chest, stabbed him in his face, all over his body, and yet he was found to not be guilty of first degree M, even though there was clear evidence that he had intention to stab Jose Ramirez. But he got away with it because he had the complexion for protection. And that's BS because Karmelo Anthony was 17 when the stabbing occurred too. He was underage. Where does it say there was a bathroom fight involving others? Where does it say that? Because last time I checked, the fight happened in the bathroom, and Casey and Allison stabbed Jose Ramirez on multiple occasions. He stabbed him on multiple times. And even if other people were involved, the fact that you stabbed him once and you didn't run off shows that you had intention to harm him, to kill him. Because you stabbed Jose Ramirez more than one time. He stabbed him at least 5 times. He intended to unalive him. And yet he was found to be not guilty of first degree M. And you said he didn't get life because he was a minor, but Karmelo Anthony was 17 years old when this incident happened between him and Austin Metcalf. But you're saying that don't apply to him as well? Now moving the goalposts, I'm being just objective. I'm literally telling you what's going on. He was found only guilty of manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 10 years instead of the whole sentence. But wasn't Karmelo a minor too? Let's look up this, because you're not being objective. You're not being objective right now. He could be charged as an adult. Have you not heard about someone being charged as an adult? He was only 17 years old, so he's not far off from 18, so he could have been charged as an adult. So even if he's a minor, he could have still been charged as an adult. So that does basically disprove your point right there. But if I'm not mistaken, Karmelo was 17. How old was Karmelo when he stabbed Austin? Austin was 17 years old when he was unalived by Karmelo Anthony, and Karmelo Anthony was the same age as him. So Karmelo Anthony was 17 years old. He was underage just like him. So are you saying now in that situation, the rule doesn't apply the same way as you're saying with Casey and Allison being a minor? Because they are the same age. Very similar situation. Very similar situation. But the difference between Casey and Allison and Karmelo Anthony was that Casey and Allison showed clear intent to unalive Jose Ramirez. He showed it in his text that he planned to stab Jose Ramirez. He planned to harm him very badly, and he carried out with doing that. And not only that he stabbed him and killed him, he stabbed him on multiple times, which showed that he had clear intention to unalive him. But yet he wasn't found not guilty of first degree M. You can't disprove anything I'm saying. I'm gonna play some up because I literally, you can't disprove nothing that I'm saying, bro. Don't insult my intelligence, because I literally bring up cases. You didn't know about the Casey Allison case. So how can you come into my chat and try to insult my intelligence? You didn't even know about Casey Allison. You're the same one that said it didn't happen in the state. So who are you? You don't even know about it. You said, oh, it didn't happen in the state of Texas. So now the case don't apply to him? All of a sudden, it's a whole different story. He's a minor. But he was the same age as Karmelo. Karmelo was 17 when the stabbing occurred. Casey Allison was 17 when the stabbing occurs. But all of a sudden, he's a minor now. So it was a minor for Casey Allison, but it's not a minor for Karmelo Anthony. I could clearly see that you're being biased right now. When Casey Allison stabbed Jose Ramirez to death, oh, he's a minor. Like, that's why he didn't get charged with first degree M. But Karmelo Anthony, that only poked Austin Metcalf once and ran off. Oh, he deserved first degree M. But you just said that Casey Allison was a minor. How that doesn't apply to Karmelo? They're the same age. You're being biased. You're being biased. You're being biased, Tam. You're being biased. And you better come back. If you do decide to come back to my chat in 10 minutes, you better come correctly and don't call me out of my name. Don't disrespect me, because I never called you out your name. Never once did I use any words to I never disrespected you. I never used any ad hominem attacks. I never used any insult. So when you come back into my chat, I could have blocked you, but I want to have a conversation, a civil conversation. But don't come disrespecting me in my chat. Don't call me out of my name. Don't say nothing disrespectful. Because if you do it again, you're going to be blocked. I should have blocked you, but I give you grace. I give you grace. Bram, you said your heart's lost? What do you mean by my heart's lost? We are safe. He's in prison. Karmelo was stupid, not bright, but you don't know to spell bright. Oh my God, these trolls are confused individuals, man. Alright, let's go over stunning revelation about the past troubling life of both Karmelo and Austin Metcalf. So let's read over it. Because I'm very objective. Like, I'm not gonna act like, oh, Karmelo didn't have a troubling history as well. But I'm talking about, if this case was allowed to move forward and information like this was revealed to the public, it could have definitely swayed the jury to side more with Karmelo, because it would have showed intention of Austin Metcalf part being the aggressor. Because let's read through it again. I'm going through it one by one. I'm going through Austin Metcalf, and I'm also going to go to Karmelo, right? Because I want to make it, I don't want it sound like, make it seem like I'm just being biased or anything like that. I'm being objective, and I'm looking at both sides. But I'm talking about how it could paint a picture in the jury's eyes, right? Because it was proven that Austin Metcalf was known to be a bully, known to be the aggressor, and to pick fights with people and even jump people, and being a racist at the same time. So let's read through this again. There was a graffiti incident that happened in which Austin Metcalf and his brother were found to spray graffiti that had racist words saying KKK kill all blacks. And he also said Hail, Hitler, along with using the N-word. And he was sentenced to 12 months of juvenile probation. That's damning information right there. And also, records showed that after he was, arrested, he said we do dumb stuff and we do some vandalism. And then several incidents showed that Austin was caught using racial slur in school. And in 2023, he was accused of bullying a black student in class. And then in 2018, he was found to beat up along with his brother, because the brother is right there with him to tag along with him to do his mess. He was found to bully and assault a female, which led to him being arrested. And then in 2024, with another female student, he was found to allegedly knock her to the ground and punch her in the stomach. And he was also kicked out of the football game, and later texted someone, "I was about to beat the blank out of those students." And at a previous track meet with another student, somebody alerted Austin that someone was not on their team, and he was behind our bench and was talking wild, right? And Austin reportedly said, "Kill that MFer." And then in 2023 and 2024, he received in-school suspension twice. And then he was disciplined by the school from April 2023 to May 2024, which revealed that he called the teacher the B word and used profanity. And he told the school official that he couldn't control it, which is anger, and he wasn't aware that it was coming out of his mouth. And he couldn't control what he was saying to her, right? In 2024, at least 5 occasions, records showed that Austin Metcalf saw a counselor regarding his anger and rage during a football game. So he had anger issues. He couldn't control his emotions. In 2025, he was banned from attending a basketball game for a season after yelling profanity at a player. We already know what kind of profanity he was using. They're not trying to be honest about it. He was using racial slur. He was definitely saying a bunch of N-word, being racist like he is, and verbally assaulting people at the basketball game. And he was banned from attending any of the game for a whole season because of him being racist. And he also found in the court that he was suspended after that, and another student was he was suspended from the school after he and another student had a conversation of bringing a gun to the school the following day. So as a result of being banned from attending any basketball game, he started having a conversation with another student of bringing a gun to school to harm students there. Now this is the part where the prosecutor have a case against Karmelo. And this is why I'm being objective. I'm bringing up the case with Karmelo as well. Karmelo was a teenager in Louisiana that was found to have stabbed Austin Metcalf, and it showed that he sent a text message at 1 a.m. that says, "I'm low-key on the verge," and he emphasized it. Later in the morning, on April 2nd, 2025, and hours before he would unalive Austin Metcalf with a knife at a high school event, prosecutors said that he told his girlfriend that attended Centennial High School that he was engaging. The girlfriend told authorities at the high school that Karmelo was engaging in stalker's behavior, included but not limited to driving by her home and refusing to allow her to end the relationship. Also, there's a 75-page fill-in that says that Karmelo had previously been accused of stealing his girlfriend's phone, and in October 24, he wrote a to-do list for his girlfriend about how to deal with, quote, weirdos, and include things like, say something slick like my boyfriend will unalive people. And this is text about him fighting and threats. There are several text messages that admit to at least 2 occasions of him punching girls in the face. So prosecutors also found text messages from 2025 between Karmelo Anthony and another student about them robbing someone for $300. That there are other text messages where Karmelo talked about fighting and punching someone so hard he had to stop fighting. And in 2023, prosecutors also said Karmelo Anthony told a friend he was going to vandalize someone's house in Austin, Texas, saying, "I just feel like I got a grudge." Then in 2021, he told a friend he had been suspended from school for 3 days for fighting, saying they said next time I do something, I get recommended for expulsion. In a text conversation with a friend in 2024, prosecutors have messages of Karmelo Anthony in which he wrote, "I'ma shoot the school up tomorrow with my blick," but later sent messages saying, "I would never actually do that." So he retracted his statement. In 2024, text thread showed that Carmelo admitted to carrying a firearm, telling a friend before a party that he will have the gun in my pocket. And according to the documents, there are other messages threads in which he mentions carrying a gun. Then, and in 10 years in Louisiana, after numerous suspensions for fighting while attending school in Louisiana, there are messages between Karmelo Anthony and his girlfriend after he moved to Frisco. The document showed, and in one of the messages, it suggests that he replied saying, "Yay, and punch people, maybe run sometimes. I have to. It's like a priority for me. I like punching people. When I get mad, I see red. When I get mad, I black out. When I get mad, I can't control myself." Persecutor also received messages where he admitted to getting high and drinking alcohol and even talking about selling drugs to get guns. And in 2024, prosecutor said Carmelo attempted to assault a teacher, saying, "I will put my hands in face and everything." So we could clearly see both Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf have a troubling past, and they're shown to be very aggressive. They have anger issues, and they have problems with temper. So I'm being objective here, but here's the thing. Even though it shows that Carmelo Anthony had used also been physically aggressive, he does a crime, none does a time. Well, obviously he did something that was wrong. Well, not saying he was wrong. I believe he had the right to defend himself, and I think the charge that he gave him is way over top because he wasn't shown to have premeditation. So he should have been found guilty of manslaughter at least, because I already brought up a case with a case analysis. Go back to my live, because I'm not going to go over the whole thing again. So when I'm talking about intention, yeah, Carmelo Anthony is not perfect by any means, but at the same time, Austin Metcalf was known to assault people physically, put his hands on a woman. I've never seen any proof for Carmelo putting his hands on a female. He made threats, but he never carried through with the threat. But Austin Metcalf has actually physically assaulted a female to the point when he was arrested. Yeah, Carmelo Anthony has a lot of skeleton in his closet, but I haven't seen any proof of him actually assaulting a woman. I've never seen him physically punch a woman. But no, let me take that back. They said that he did put his hand on a woman, but only when she put her hand on him. He reacted in self-defense. But I never see him going on his way to actually assault a woman for no reason. I see Austin did that. Austin Metcalf have done that, which is crazy. Anyways, let's continue. Wait. Why did You're a dumbass. Grumpy, you're a fucking dumbass. Don't come in my live stream talking shit. If you didn't watch the live stream earlier, shut your dumbass mouth. Shut your bitch ass up. You don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because I said stuff earlier in the stream, and I've been objective. I'm literally going through the case with Carmelo of things that he was found to be guilty of in the past. So I'm not just saying things just to say it. I'm being very objective here. And you didn't even watch the stream. You just came in and talking shit. Shut your dumb ass up, you fat ass piece of shit. Get out of my live stream, you piece of shit. Anyways, so they said persecutors admitted that the prosecutor said Carmelo admitted to stealing a watch and earbuds in a separate burglaries in Collin County, and also bringing weapons onto Frisco school campus. And about his girlfriends, he went in the bag to get my computer, and I said no, and she still went in and grabbed it, and my gun and my knife and other stuff fell out. There are numerous unreleased photos and videos of Carmelo Anthony holding firearms and making threats. Authorities found a note on Carmelo's phone with a long list of disturbing racial tropes and slurs about blacks, whites, and Hispanic. In one message thread, prosecutors said Carmelo wrote, "I hate gay people." Man, like I said, I'm not gonna lie, and I say, I'm gonna be honest. Both of these teams had trouble in past. They both had issues. So I'm not gonna just say Carmelo Anthony is innocent at all. You know what I mean? Like he had a trouble in past. But when I'm being about objective here. Um, in terms of the case and how it's handled, I don't think it's fair with the verdict because at the end of the day, even though Carmelo Anthony have a troubling past, just like Austin, and who's the case comes down to who was the initial aggressor, and it's clear as day that Austin Metcalf was the initial aggressor. He's the one that physically assaulted Carmelo, and being that he has a past history of being an aggressor and being a bully and assaulting people and fighting and picking fights with people, that could work in Carmelo Anthony's favor. Obviously, Carmelo Anthony has a history of, having problems with his temper and stuff like that. But when you're coming on tick for tack, it all comes down to who started the fight, who was the initial aggressor. And in Texas, you don't have a duty to retreat when you're being assaulted by somebody, and is you could fear for your life if you feel like you could seriously be hurt or unalive by not just one person but several individuals. So in this situation, it still works out. In my opinion, it would have worked out more in Carmelo Anthony's favor. Even with all this being said, even when it says here that Carmelo Anthony threatened to unalive his girlfriend in text message saying something like, "How many bullets you want coming out of your chest? I'm gonna get you blank." They also said he threatened her with a knife in one message and told her in another, when I stab somebody, I want to lick their blood off the blade." Man, these two kids are so disturbed. Prosecutor and defense attorney got their character reports from a combination of police reports, school records, and cell phone extraction. So anyway, that's pretty much summarize everything I've said so far. I wasn't surprised by the new judge decision to not move forward with the motion of a new trial, because I already know the system is designed to uphold white supremacy, and I'm not gonna act like Carmelo Anthony is a saint either. He had a troubling past. I literally went through a list of things that he had issues that he was dealing with. So at the end of the day, Carmelo Anthony, I think, was unjustly served a verdict of first-degree murder. I said the word. Because there was no proof that he had premeditated days and weeks before to stab Austin Metcalf. But we could see in the case of Case and Allison, it was proof in his text message that he planned to unalive Jose Ramirez days leading up to the event taking place, where he stabbed Jose Ramirez on multiple occasions. He stabbed him on multiple occasions. So he had intention to unalive Jose Ramirez. Whereas Carmelo Anthony poked Austin Metcalf once and he ran off. It's not like he poked him several times. So at the end of the day, that's pretty much wrap up the video. Take care. Thank you guys for tuning in. I think I've been going on for long. Make sure you like. Wait, somebody said it ain't white supremacy. White supremacy is law and order. His own words convicted him. So you're telling me that there's clear evidence. Let me tell you why it's a case of white supremacy. Well, more so like institutional racism. Because Excuse me about that. I'm gonna disprove your point because the the judge that was the initial judge that was overseeing the case after the verdict was put down and was sentenced after Carmelo Anthony received the verdict of first degree, which is overkill. There was no proof of first degree M. Even that's the case, that's enough reason to have a new trial because he was unjustly sentenced to first degree M. And at the same time, the judge, his name is Roach or something, I forgot his name. He said a lot of damning things after the case that will be enough reason for a trial to be a motion for a new trial to be approved. Because he said a lot of things that no judge should be saying about a trial. So you could clearly see there was some bias involved. And there were no jury that were black. None of the juries were black. They were all stricken down when during the case. So if you didn't watch my live stream, man, you literally are stupid, man. There's so much ignorant people that are just coming in the chat. Did not listen to anything I'm saying. I literally went over things that Carmelo Anthony was found, guilty for doing in the past. I said both teams are troubled teams, but I'm talking about the law. I'm literally go based on the law, and I literally brought up case. You gotta go, man. You gotta go. Would y'all fake care as much as if he offered off the black? Right is right and wrong is wrong, man. Right is right and wrong is wrong. You know what I'm saying? I'm being very objective. I said both of the teams were troubled. They both had a past history of having issues with controlling their emotions, with having tempers, with having a past history of being violent or having tendencies to become violent. Both of them threatened to shoot up schools. They both are they're like a mirror of each other. One is white and one is black. But here's the thing. The reason why I think it would have worked out more in the favor of Carmelo Anthony when it comes down to self-defense is because the jury was painted this image of Austin Metcalf wasn't the aggressor. And the eyewitnesses that give the accounts of the event that happened, they changed up their story because they first originally said that Austin was the one that put his hands on, he was the aggressor. He's the one that initiated physical confrontation with Carmelo. And now they changed up the story and made it seem like it was Carmelo that was the aggressor. No, Carmelo could have a verbal altercation with Austin, but a verbal altercation is not the same as a physical altercation. Carmelo Anthony said, "Touch me and see what happened." All right, it's a warning. If you put your hands on me, this is what's gonna happen. Just because somebody warns you doesn't mean that warrants you physically assaulting them. Because when you physically assault them, now they have no duty to retreat under the stand your ground doctrine or law in the state of Texas. Now people said the force that Carmelo Anthony did is not proportional to the force that was necessary, but it only depends on the interpretation of what that person see that was being assaulted. Carmelo Anthony was well in the fear of his safety because he was not only surrounded by Austin but his twin brother and their teammates. Austin is bigger than him, stronger than him, and Austin was known for being a bully. Austin was known for being a bully. He was known for beating up people, and he was known for being racist. He beat up one of his black classmates, and he was using racial slur while he beat up this black classmate of his. So there's a clear history that you could see. Austin Metcalf is a very aggressive individual that's known to be a bully and known to use his size to his advantage to bully others. So Carmelo was wrong. I'm not saying he's right or anything. I'm just saying that the sentence they give him is not warranted. Because a similar case happened with Casey Allison. but he was white, and he stabbed a Hispanic classmate named Jose Ramirez, and it clearly showed that he had intention to unalive Jose Ramirez, because he said it in his text message that he planned to do harm to Jose Ramirez. He planned to hurt him very badly. And when he got into the altercation with Jose Ramirez, he stabbed him on several occasions, multiple times. The difference with him, Karmelo didn't show any intent. He didn't show it. There was no proof that Karmelo intended to stab Austin days in advance before the incident happened. And Karmelo only poked Austin once and ran off, which shows that he was trying to, get him off of him. But Jose Ramirez Kason Allison stabbed Jose Ramirez multiple times, stabbed him over and over again, which showed he clearly had intent to unalive him. But was he found guilty of first degree M? No. He was only found guilty of manslaughter, and he was sentenced to 10 years, which means with good behavior, you get out by like 5. But how is it that Karmelo Anthony could be charged with first degree M when there was no proof that he had premeditated to unalive Austin Metcalf, and he only poked him once and ran off? And it just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. This is what this guy says. Nice, you Villiers, the dead. What? I don't know what you're saying, man. I don't understand what you're saying. As long as you're not being disrespectful in the chat, I won't block you. But if you start being disrespectful, you're out of here. In fact, there's this one guy I gotta get out. I gotta get him out of here, man. Graham. I said I pushed you on timeout. Was it Graham? Was it Graham? There was somebody that I placed on timeout, but I have to block them. I think I blocked this dude. Did I block Graham? No, he's blocked. That dude is blocked. He's disrespectful. This dude is blocked, right? Yeah, he's blocked because he's disrespectful. Like I said, if I was being nice, you vilify. I didn't vilify. How can I vilify something that's literally in the records? I didn't vilify anything. I'm just speaking on the case. I'm just speaking on what's actually. Excuse me, my bad. How am I victim blaming when I'm clearly showing that both teams have a troubling past, and I'm using the reason why, if this information was allowed to be shown to the jury, it would have worked out in Karmelo Anthony's favor a little bit more than Austin, because it would have shown that Austin have a history of being aggressive and being the instigator and being the one that initiate a lot of these confrontation. All right, that's just fact. I literally went through both cases for both of the teams of what they have been shown to be guilty of. They both struggle with issues with temper, with aggression. They both fantasize of harming a lot of people. But now it comes down to who is the initial aggressor. And it was clear as day that Austin Metcalf is the initial aggressor. As much as Karmelo Anthony has his own trouble past, at the end of the day, he was sitting down underneath the tent. Even if the tent so-called belonged to Austin Metcalf's team, it says in the standard ground state, it doesn't matter whether you're in private or public space, you have no duty to retreat. So what Austin should have done was get an authority figure to escort Karmelo Anthony out of the tent. Get a coach, get a security, get police, call the police to escort him. It's not your job to physically assault somebody because you feel like it. And then some idiot said earlier in my chat, oh, the coach gave him authority to remove anybody. Doesn't matter. Like, I find that so hysterical because The coach don't have no. Just because a coach gave him an authority to remove somebody out of the tent, does not mean he has the right to remove somebody out of the tent. He's just a kid, just like Karmelo. And here's the crazy thing: when this incident happened, Karmelo was 17, Austin was 17, and when Casey Allison stabbed Jose Ramirez to death, he was also 17. But yet the same person that was in my chat saying the same BS, he said, well, the reason why Casey Allison wasn't found guilty of first degree M is the fact that he's a minor. I'm like, are you serious? Are you really dumb? Karmelo, it was a minor too when this incident happened. But they threw the book at Karmelo. They threw the book at Karmelo. They gave him 30 years to life. And he was 17 years old. But did they do that for Casey Allison? No. They charged him with manslaughter, and they only sentenced him to 10 years. And with good behavior, he get out by 5. You cannot tell me that's not a direct result and evidence of systemic racism, as institutional racism. The system is used to benefit white people and punish black people. There's 2 similar cases, literally identical, almost identical, except one had intention. Casey Allison had intention to unalive Jose Ramirez. He said it in the text days before the incident happened that he was going to hurt Jose Ramirez very badly. He was going to inflict very bad things, do very bad things to him. He's going to inflict harm on him. And then he had an altercation with him in the bathroom, and he stabbed him on multiple occasions, which means he had intent to unalive him. With Karmelo, there was no proof of premeditation. There was no proof that he had any text that showed that he was going to stab Austin Metcalf days before the incident happened. This incident happened, it was a one-time thing, and Karmelo poked him and ran off. He only poked him once and ran off. He didn't stab him multiple times, so there's no proof of intent. But the difference between Casey and Karmelo is that Casey had the complexion for protection, and Karmelo was a black kid, and they threw the book at him. They gave him first degree M, even though there was no proof of that. And they were both 17 years old. That's a clear proof of institutional racism. That's why I said nothing surprised me anymore with the judge throwing out the motion for a new trial, because I already know the system is designed as a way to keep my people under oppression. It's not used to support black people at all. We get the short end of the stick. They threw the book at Karmelo, gave him 30 years to life, and Casey Allison did even worse, and he wasn't found guilty of first degree M. Make that make sense, bro. I'm literally giving 2 cases, a similar scenario, but one difference is that one is a white kid, and Casey Allison was the same age as Karmelo. Karmelo was 17, Casey Allison was 17, but yet Casey had a complexion for protection. Karmelo, they threw the book at him. And I'm sure if you look at the past of Casey Allison, he has a troubling past. You will find troubling past just like how they did with Karmelo. So you can't say, oh, it's just a one-time thing. I'm sure there's, if they found text messages that showed Casey Allison had intent to harm Jose Ramirez, then you know you're going to find things in his past that showed that he was a troubled kid just the same as Karmelo. But he had the complexion for protection. So they didn't charge him with first degree, even though he is evidence that proved beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to unalive Jose Ramirez. So you cannot tell me that institutional racism and white supremacy doesn't exist. That's a clear sign of that. That's a clear evidence. I'm literally showing you anecdotal evidence. I'm reading through transcript. I'm bringing up cases that you can look up and review it for yourself. And don't tell me, oh, it's 2 different cases. No, it happened in the same state. The incident that happened with Casey Allison, where he stabbed Jose Ramirez on multiple times, leading to his death, it happened in the state of Texas. So the same law applies to Casey Allison with Karmelo. But you have 2 different outcomes because of the race. To just deny that and not look at it as something related to race is just being disingenuous at this point. Anyways, I rest my case. Bro, what is this dude, man? He made another profile? This Dixon dude is a weirdo, man. This Dixon dude is an actual weirdo. This dude made like several profiles just trolling, man. Saying weird stuff. I got some weird, man. I'm telling you, the amount of weird people online is crazy. Anyways, guys, I'm about to finish this live stream. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Turn the notification bell on. And when the video live is finished, shoot a comment in the video when it just uploads to YouTube. Like I said, I'm being fair and objective. And you cannot tell me I'm being biased because I bring up both cases with both of the teenage. And I did admit that they both had trouble in past. And I'm just being objective when it comes onto the law. So anyways, thank you for tuning in into the live stream, and let me know what you guys think. Take care, be safe out there, and God bless you. Peace for now.